to grab this. Calm down. Okay, let me make dinner before it gets completely dark. Hi, I'm Christine. After starting life over in 2020, I'm using seasonal work to build financial security, experience new places, and most importantly, keep living life as a big adventure. Come along as I live like a local in desired destinations, spend time in nature hiking, backpacking, and living out of my car, and craft the trips of my dreams on a backpacker's budget.
They say gardens are for growing so much more than roses, but you like the way they look. They say dancing is for parties, but you'd rather do it always. So I twirl you around the kitchen while we cook. I wanna do anything you want to. I wanna do anything you want to. They say singing's for the birds, but they must have never heard the sound of your voice coming from the shower. And if magic is for movies, would you please explain to me the feeling that I get when I'm around you? I wanna do anything you want to. I wanna do anything you want to.
Well, thought I was going to get attacked this morning, but not by a grizzly, not by a wild animal, but by a dog. I am camping here alone. I was here alone all last night. It was so quiet that I was struggling to try to hear something and couldn't. This morning I got up and there's actually a pit toilet just over yonder, and I went into the pit toilet. There was no one here, but I did hear a vehicle pull up while I was in there. Came out and was immediately greeted by a dog. Looked like it was maybe a boxer, American bulldog, pit bull mix, something like that. I grew up with boxers, but I have in my adulthood developed a little bit of a fear of dogs just because of negative run-ins. I was kind of attacked by a group of dogs in Ecuador, and especially after that, like when I'm approached by dogs barking at me, I get really scared. And so I had my bear spray in my hand because I was coming out of the bathroom, and this dog hackles up barking at me. The people are not even out of the car. So the man gets out of the car, and I'm like, probably in the most pathetic looking way, just like, please, please get your dog. I'm like, he's like, he's a good boy. The woman's out of the car by this point. I'm like, okay, that may be the case, but I'm afraid of dogs. I mean, this dog was not being friendly towards me. He might be a good boy, but he was not being friendly towards me. And then so they called the dog a few times, and the dog did go back. And then I just like casually started walking back to my campsite. But by the time I got over here right next to my car, I could tell they were like trying to call the dog. I think his name was Tom. Calling this dog Tom over and over and over again. It's like, okay, your dog does not have recall. I didn't want the dog to attack me because then worse things would have happened. Like, no. Anyway, by the time I got back to my car and opened the door, I could see the dog coming around the corner. So I hopped in and just like, I literally just like hopped in the car in the most awkward position and just like waited. And he's just calling. And finally the dog comes back, and then their other dog wanders over. Oh, it was scary though. It's like, I've said this before, but wild animals is one thing to be afraid of. But honestly, like, I have had far more negative encounters with domesticated animals. Even out in places like this. But I still love dogs. I do. Just sometimes I'm afraid of them. So I'm getting ready. I'm going to do a workout here at camp. And then I'm going to get ready for the day. And we're going to talk about some of the things that I download and prep for in order to be out of service and well prepared to figure out where I'm going and what I'm doing.
Take me to the water, baptized in the river, where the current runs deep, let it wash over me. I've watched the levee break, felt the dark side of fate, wondered who it is that I became. Maybe there's a chance for me, maybe I can break free.
Well, that was a nice little workout. I did 5 rounds of 20 each, squats, bird jumps, and dead bugs, and I tried to throw in some burpees there at the end, but I'm just not feeling fit enough yet for that movement. I am down here by the water now, and I just wanted to, oh yeah, it's very cold. I wanted to stick my toe in. It's very cold. Well, I'm definitely not too tempted to go for a swim. Plus, we've got some clouds coming in on the sky, on the horizon there, so wouldn't be too surprised if we got a storm later, although it wasn't forecasted. But I did just have a shower yesterday afternoon, so no sense in getting myself wet in all that water. I'll just do a wipe wash, get myself ready for the day, and then give you the information as promised. Okay, can we pretend I'm a better cinematographer than I actually am and that I don't have a tree pole sticking out the top of my head? I wanted to give you guys a pretty backdrop, but this thing is just like, and I have to film it this way because the sun. Anyway, yesterday was my first day in Montana. I haven't really spent a whole lot of time in this state. I've kind of traveled through. I may have actually been through this area before when I traveled from Utah up to the Canadian border, because I did cross in Roosevelt, which is not too far north of here. Yeah, it was my first day in the state. I came in after dark and stealth camped in Missoula, Montana, and when I got up in the morning, I headed over to the library there in Missoula, which, if I can take a moment and just say, the library in Missoula is not to be missed. I mean, if you have reason to be there, it's absolutely something worth checking out and a great place to spend some time. I would say the aesthetic of it is somewhere where it's like library meets IKEA. It's aesthetically pleasing, but also super functional. Whatever team designed that really did a very good job of making something that was both functional and pleasant. And it seems like it's a tremendous resource to the community. Like, the programming there is really in touch with what the community is needing. And yeah, I just have a lot of really positive things to say about that, even though I only spent a couple of hours there. Coming into the state of Montana from Washington, there are some things that I needed to update and download newer versions of so that I could use them in the state of Montana to cover some of the things that I'm looking to do here. Biggest tip is to download Google Maps for offline use. Honestly, it surprises me how many people, including other content creators I see here on YouTube, that have been living on the road for years, that I have recently heard in videos say that they didn't want to close out their directions because they didn't have service and they couldn't reopen their directions, or that they didn't know exactly where they're going because no directions would load, or they didn't have access to maps. Like, hello, just download them for offline use. It is free to do that, and it's so easy. So if you have an area downloaded, you are able to use it exactly like you do when you're within cell reception. Your Google Maps will load. You can search for destinations, you can search for random places. Like, one thing I search for often is rest areas or restaurants or gas stations, and I may not have cell reception, but I'm able to find those places. I'm able to find where they are. While I can't necessarily download or access all of the details of it when I'm using the downloaded version, it's still more than enough I need to get by. This is super important because I know when I'm traveling into places like national forest land or national parks, there's a very slim chance that I will have any sort of data coverage in that area. Those areas are just kind of dead zones. And so having my offline maps is clutch. One little tip I have for this process is that sometimes you have like the teensiest little bar of cell service, and then you're trying to load directions or search for something on your Google Maps, and you know you've downloaded this area, and it can be really frustrating because it's like, okay, I have this area downloaded, so even if I'm not getting enough coverage to access it, it should be loading for me. If that's the case for you, just put your phone into airplane mode, and then the downloaded version knows to work. It will stop trying to operate off of cell signal at that point. It will load directly from what's downloaded, and then you can go back and turn on your cell reception, like take it off of airplane mode at that point. And you will still have those directions loaded and going for you. It's just a little tip that I have that helps, and sometimes that can feel a little bit frustrating. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is an app that I've been using more recently in conjunction with Google Maps. And this is because I'm using the free version of this app. This app has been around for a little while. I think it's in its second version at this point, and it's really popular with the road life community, but it is something that's pretty new to me. And before I decide to pay for a version of it, I really want to see if it's the right fit for what I'm doing. So the app I'm referring to is called iOverlander. You may have heard of it. Like I said, it's really popular. And this app is generally used for finding resources for road lifers. So anybody that's out even on a road trip, it's going to help you find some spots for either paid campsites, dispersed camping, dump stations, water refill, Wi-Fi, all sorts of those kinds of things are available and can be viewed on this app. Now, being a free user, I am not able to access this offline. So I am using this in conjunction with Google Maps, which I will talk about in just a moment. First, I want to talk about the second restriction I'm encountering being a free user, and that's I'm only able to access information from one US state at a time. This app does seem to have information from all around the world, so I don't know how that works internationally, but in the US, it seems like you're only able to access the information from one state at a time, being a free user. Having traveled from Washington quickly through Idaho, but into Montana now, I had to go and tell them that I didn't want Washington anymore, so I undownloaded it, and then I downloaded Montana and was able to see the sites in Montana. Kind of knowing the general area that I would be traveling into, I went ahead and found some dispersed campsites, looking through the details and stuff like that seemed like it was a right fit for me. And from that, I actually just copied the GPS directly from the app and went over to my Google Maps, put in those GPS coordinates, and saved that location to a list that I have, which is called boondocking. So that's just how I choose to organize it. You can add notes in. You can say #1 location, by a creek, has a bathroom, whatever details that you would like to include, has cell service, anything like that. And those notes will be available to you on your offline maps. If I needed to, right now where I have no cell service, if I needed to find another campsite, since I'm not able to access iOverlander, I can just go into my Google Maps and find an access right now, what I have downloaded on my saved list, anything that spotted on iOverlander that caught my eye and I thought might be helpful to me. So I'm just kind of transferring information at this point. So those two things are really what is going to nail down where I'm going and where I am sleeping. Now, the other things that I like to plan ahead for are, what am I doing? I like to spend a lot of my time hiking, and so I will go to All Trails, which I do pay for. I pay for an annual subscription to All Trails, and I will pick out some of the hikes that I might be interested in doing in the region where I will be traveling, and I download those hikes for offline use. Now those hikes are saved and I'm able to access them even if I don't have service. So I can remind myself of trail descriptions. I can now use the directions feature through Google Maps to find my way to the trailhead, of course, because I've downloaded the offline map for Google. Sorry, I'm really feeding that fed horse there. And then we are now able to also load the map and track the trip as I am hiking on the hike. So the National Park Service has an app in the App Store called NPS, and it has all sorts of information about a number of the National Park Service sites, including national parks, and it has a feature where you're actually able to download specific locations for offline use. Being that I'm in Montana and will be traveling to Wyoming so shortly, I know that I want to visit Yellowstone National Park. I can see information about different areas, visitor centers, hikes, like they have hikes broken down into regions and what kind of hikes and what kind of experience. It's very useful. And then something I haven't used yet that I'm interested in trying out is the guided tours or guided audio tours. So I'm going to check that out pretty soon when I do go visit the park and see what that has to offer. But that is another resource that I would recommend downloading ahead of time to make your out of cell service experience that much smoother.
seems about time for dinner, and I think an egg sandwich would do the trick.
Whispers in the dark, pull me to the light. The stars in the sky have led me to find what I've been searching for. It's right in front of me. Beyond my wildest dreams, open eyes, open heart, another light, another start, right in front of me. Held up to the light, I could finally see traces of divine coming over me. Hearts born again, our song on the wind, a world we never known. It's right in front of me, beyond my wildest dreams.
Simple dinner for a simple day. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I'll see you on the next one.